And welcome back. Now, Hollywood actor Vin Diesel has been accused of sexual battery by his former personal assistant. Asta Johansson is suing the Fast and Furious star, saying he pinned her to a wall as he performed a sex act on himself during the 2010 filming of Fast 5. She's further suing for wrongful termination, claiming she was fired just hours after the alleged attack. Vin Diesel's lawyer says he denies the claim in its entirety. Joining me now to discuss this is film critic Van Connor. Van, thank you so much for talking to us. Just explain to our viewers how big a star is Vin Diesel.
In and of himself, Vin Diesel is not inherently a movie star, but the problem is he is tied intrinsically to one of the industry's biggest brands, the Fast and Furious series, which accounts for somewhere in the region of $7+ billion in global gross now. He is also a name producer on that, so produced through his label One Race Productions, who was employing Asta Johansson when all this allegedly took place. She, as a result, is not just suing Vin Diesel; she is also suing Samantha Vincent, who runs One Race Productions, who happens to be Vin Diesel's sister, and the production company themselves. But as I say, he himself, outside of this brand, is actually not that big a deal. Within that brand, though, and within the industry, he's huge. He is one of the highest grossing stars on the planet.
So one of the highest grossing stars on the planet. And what's his reputation before this accusation came out?
To be perfectly frank, Vin Diesel's reputation has never exactly been sparkling. He does have a tendency to instigate feuds with people on screen and off. There is a long-standing, legendary beef between himself and, for instance, Dwayne Johnson that only just got resolved this past year, I think, allegedly at Johnson's, behest. He has a reputation for being somewhat difficult, a little bit grandiose, and, to be honest, narcissistic. He is depicted as being quite narcissistic.
OK, so obviously we don't know what did happen with it, but we do know there's a pretty unpleasant allegation. Just talk to us a bit more about who's alleging what, when this happened, and what happens next.
So this allegedly took place in 2010 in Atlanta during the filming of Fast 5, generally regarded as the fan favorite and the high watermark of that series. They even called back to it this year, in fact, with Fast 10 or Fast X. The story that's been presented is that Asta Johansson was hired as Vin Diesel's assistant. She immediately flew to Atlanta. She checked into the St. Regis Hotel where he was staying, and this incident took place within his room, that he forced himself upon her, pinned her against a wall, and, as it has been said, performed a sex act on himself. She was then fired by telephone several hours later. She is now suing for gender-based discrimination, hostile work environment, retaliation, and wrongful termination, I think.
And presumably, as we saw in so many other of the Me Too cases, what this young woman will be hoping for now is that other people come out with their own stories about Vin Diesel to help her in her allegation.
In most of these cases that we've seen in the past 5 to 6 years, we do tend to find that, where there is smoke, there usually is a lot of fire coming down the way, that other people do tend to come forward. It is very much a case of inspiring others in the same position. And if that's the case here, then this could be very, very bad for, one of the most recognizable faces of the industry today. Don't forget, he's not just a Hollywood star, he's a global star. This is a franchise that literally is known and cherished around the world.
And of course, that brings us to, again, what was such a recurring theme with other Hollywood stars and Me Too stories, which was the individual star has a lot to lose. The movie studio has arguably even a lot more to lose, because this is their bread and butter. This is their ticket to making a lot of money, and hence why so many stars in the past were protected when they were accused of wrongdoing.
Yeah, and we've seen literally this week with the verdict against Jonathan Majors in New York for alleged battery, and how that has been handled by Disney and Marvel Studios, immediately having to derail multiple, tentpole blockbuster productions because the brand simply can't afford to be attached to a star like that. In the case of something like the Fast and Furious, that could actually be even worse because we are talking about the face on the poster, and someone like Universal will not tolerate that.
And Asia Argento, one of Vin Diesel's co-stars, they've got themselves into trouble as well. Just to explain what that story, that was one of his biggest cheerleaders, I think.
Asia Argento was Vin Diesel's co-star on Triple X back in 2002, daughter of legendary horror director Dario Argento. She herself, during the initial wave of allegations that came out during Time's Up and Me Too, found herself being represented as something of a problematic figure. And again, you look at the people that have come out in the last few years. Jamie Foxx has had allegations made against him. P. Diddy, for instance, and say Jonathan Majors, as recently as this week. This has not ended. The Time's Up Me Too, wave is still ongoing. This is nowhere near over.
Yeah, well, Van Connor, an uncomfortable Christmas coming up for some. Thank you very much for filling us in here on talkTV.